Hello everyone, welcome to a tropical weather checkup for September 11th. Today we're going to be looking at Tropical Depression 12, Tropical Depression 19, Tropical Storm Rene, Tropical Storm Paulette, and 95L, so a lot to cover today. And here is very recently formed Tropical Depression 12, just off the coast of Japan right now. Very disorganized still, and probably won't become a hurricane. The cloud fall, you can see, already starting to affect the Japanese coast, and it shouldn't get that strong because the water temperatures are not that warm up by Japan right now. Looking at past 24-hour precipitation, plenty of rain where the storm has passed through. Also, Japan is very waterlogged right now, so this storm could definitely bring some extra rain onto an already soaked Japanese island. Here is the wind speed. You can see that dark blue area, but none really affecting Japan, and it shouldn't really affect Japan with wind speeds. Just a lot of rain should come in to Japan. Here's the intensity, 45 km/h winds and moving north-northwest at 26 km/h. It shouldn't really strengthen that much. It'll hit its peak most likely tomorrow and then move out into the open ocean and become extra tropical. Now going over to Tropical Storm Rene, which has hit the same area of wind shear that Paulette has already gone through, and it's probably not going to become a hurricane now, and it looks really disorganized, much less organized than 2 days ago. Now looking at the cloud fall, it is literally a perfect circle right now, and it'll probably stay that way for a while, but really tiny. Water temperatures ahead for the storm pretty warm, but they don't expect it to get up to hurricane status anymore. Now looking at past 24-hour precipitation, you can see really how much it's weakened. Earlier it was dropping 5 inches or more in some areas. Now it's barely dropping an inch in some areas, and the strongest side of the storm is probably the northwest side. But you can see how much that wind speed has gone down. It's weakened a lot. And that southern eye wall in the later frames, that southwestern eye wall starts to fall apart. Now for the intensity of Rene, 65 km/h winds, 1,004 millibars of pressure, and moving west-northwest at 22 km/h. It's going to continue that west-northwest track, actually more northwest than west-northwest. But it's going to continue going up, and then it's going to suddenly come to basically a standstill, and then start to move straight west. Now looking at the infrared imagery, you can see, again, it's like literally a perfect circle right now. Earlier it wasn't. It was actually a lot weaker earlier. It is kind of strengthened a bit, not really in wind speed, but just in size. And you'll also be able to see that pretty well on the water vapor imagery. Now looking at the cone for Rene, still nothing that interesting and no watches or warnings in effect for anywhere. Same with chance of tropical storm force winds, no land in that, and the models are still all over the place on this storm. Here's one that can actually do damage. It's Tropical Storm Paulette, which has gotten its southern eye wall back together after passing through that area of wind shear. That northeastern side is still probably where the most rain is, but the strongest winds are probably now on the northwestern and western side of the storm, which is interesting. Looking at the cloud fall, you can see that northwestern side is probably the strongest in terms of cloud fall, and here water temperature is pretty warm for the entire storm's track, and still it starts to go towards the north, and that is where the colder waters are currently. Now looking at past 24-hour precipitation, plenty of rain where the storm has passed, 5 inches in some areas over the open ocean. And here are the wind speeds, which that entire northern side still the strongest, and it begins to strengthen more as we go on throughout the next couple of days. And here's the intensity of Paulette, 100 km/h winds, 989 millibars of pressure, and moving northwest at 20 km/h. It's going to continue that northwest trend until it makes a sudden jolt towards the northeast, where it will pass very close to Bermuda, just barely towards the west of Bermuda, probably still will make a landfall. And now looking at the infrared, we'll really be able to tell what that strongest side is. I still think it's the northwest, but it's either the northwest or the northeast. Looking at the northwest in the later frames, though, that northeast is really falling apart, and the northwest is thriving, and you'll also be able to see that in the water vapor imagery. Now looking at the cone for Paulette, which only really features Bermuda, no watches or warnings in effect, which is crazy because there is a 100% chance of tropical storm force winds right now on Bermuda, as you can see. And the models on Lake Rene are actually pretty consistent and pretty much all say it's going to hit Bermuda. And this is probably the most recently formed storm, Tropical Depression 19, heading right for Florida, currently right over the Bahamas, probably dropping plenty of rain and even some pretty powerful winds, still pretty disorganized, but after it moves past Florida into the Gulf, it could mobilize more and become a bigger storm. Now looking at the water temperatures, really warm ahead, but it's going to hit Florida, and that'll give it less time to strengthen up. Could become very close to hurricane status before it gets to the Louisiana-Mississippi border. Now looking at past 24-hour precipitation, plenty of green. Florida's already rain-soaked, so this is just going to add more rain onto the already soaked Florida coastline. And looking at the wind speed, nothing really too interesting. It hasn't really gotten that strong of wind speeds just yet. And here's the intensity of 19, 55 kilometer per hour winds, 1,009 millibars of pressure and moving west-northwest at 13 kilometers per hour. It's going to continue that west-northwest track pretty much all the way up until landfall. It's going to go right through Florida and then hit at the Mississippi-Louisiana border, really close to New Orleans, actually. Now looking at the infrared, still pretty disorganized. I'd say the strongest side is definitely that southeast side. Most likely, at least, you can see definitely that the southeast side's probably the strongest, and you'll probably also be able to see that in the water vapor imagery. And here is the cone, which nothing really interesting. It shows the same thing that we've already been seeing. But the thing that is interesting, the tropical storm watches are all across the South Florida coast. I think it's Miami-Dade County to Palm Beach County. And here's the chance of tropical storm force winds. Already getting into the 40% on the Louisiana and Mississippi coast. Also some 50%, just barely some 50%. And the models kind of all over the place, but they all generally predict the same vague area. And here's our last individual storm that we're looking at, Invest 95L, just off the coast of Africa. Still a massive system and still has a very high chance of development. Now looking at the cloud fall, you can see very disorganized, and now going over to water temperatures, really warm across the entire Atlantic, so it has plenty of room to strengthen. And now looking at past 24-hour precipitation, yellows and reds all across the area that the storm has passed through so far. And now going over to wind speeds, dark blue area, that is where the storm currently is at. Luckily for us, if a storm does come out of this, it doesn't look like it's going to be hitting any land anytime soon. All the models have it going towards the north and riding along the Bermuda High. And now going over to the Atlantic outlook, you have Paulette, Rene, 19, Invest 95L, and the two other storms that are in the Atlantic, the one in the Gulf and the one behind 95L, which could become another system and has a high chance of forming. And here is the East Pacific. Again, nothing in the Central Pacific. 92 and 91E are both Invest in the East Pacific right now, south of Mexico. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this tropical weather checkup and want more, definitely comment down below. This was my longest video ever, and it took a long time to make. So if you want to support me, then definitely comment down below and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Bye.